I still remember the first moment like it was carved into me, the way her eyes lingered a second too long, as if she wasn't supposed to, but couldn't stop. She wasn't just another face I passed in the crowd. She was a woman who carried silence differently, like it had weight. A stillness that pulled me in before I even knew what it meant. I was 21, reckless with my time and casual with my feelings. She was in her mid-40s, standing at the edge of a world I hadn't lived long enough to understand. We first spoke in a quiet corner of the library. I had come late, looking for somewhere to sit, but all the tables were taken. She didn't look up from her book when she said softly, "There's room here." Her voice caught me off guard, not because it was kind, but because it was steady, with a trace of exhaustion underneath. I slid into the seat across from her, my notebook still half closed, pretending I had work to do. The air between us was deliberate. She kept turning pages without looking at me, but her hands trembled just slightly, betraying what her face refused to show. I couldn't stop stealing glances. The faint lines by her eyes, the way her lips pressed together like she was holding back a thought. I spoke first, too quickly. "Do you come here often?" Her eyes flicked up, startled, not at the question itself, but at the boy who had dared to ask it. For a moment, I thought she'd brush me off. Instead, she gave the smallest smile. "When I need quiet," she said. And God, I wanted to keep her talking. She asked me about school, about classes, about why I looked more tired than someone my age should. I answered clumsily, giving too much, then pulling back. She, in turn, gave almost nothing away. Each response was clipped, careful, but never dismissive. It felt like she was measuring every word, as though one slip might reveal something she wasn't ready to admit. I noticed the small details before I noticed the bigger truth. The way she touched the rim of her coffee cup but never drank. The way her eyes drifted to the window whenever my answers grew too personal. The way she leaned back when I leaned forward, only to lean in again when I pulled away. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even obvious. But it was there, an invisible thread tightening between us. At one point, I asked her what she was reading. She turned the cover toward me, a novel about a marriage unraveling. She said nothing more, and I didn't dare ask. For the next hour, we spoke in half-truths and pauses. I told her about growing up restless, always searching for something undefined. She didn't respond right away. Then, softly, almost to herself, she said, "Some of us stop searching. But it doesn't mean we stop wanting." The words landed heavier than I knew how to handle. I wanted to ask what she meant, but her eyes warned me not to. So I let the silence stretch, filling the space with the sound of her fingers brushing the pages. When I finally packed up my notebook, I hesitated. I wanted to ask her name, but something told me not to, like names would make this moment too fragile, too real. I stood, waiting for her to acknowledge me. She didn't. She only glanced at my hand on the strap of my bag, then back at her book. And then, just as I turned to leave, her phone lit up on the table. A single message. I caught a glimpse before she snatched it away. "Where are you? Dinner's getting cold." Her jaw tightened. For the first time, she looked straight at me, and in her eyes I saw the things she had been hiding all along. A door inside me opened, and I couldn't close it. The second time I saw her wasn't planned. I had convinced myself that the first meeting was nothing, a chance encounter, a quiet hour that didn't mean more than it should. But when I walked into the cafe 2 streets from campus, there she was, sitting alone at the corner table. Same coffee cup untouched. Same careful distance from the world. I froze at the door, debating whether to turn back. She noticed me almost immediately, her gaze flicking up with the smallest jolt of recognition. For a second, she looked as though she might hide her face. Instead, she gestured toward the empty seat across from her. "You again," she said softly. No smile this time, just a half sigh, as though I had complicated her solitude. I sat. And without asking, I asked everything. Her name was Claire. Married for over 20 years. 2 children, both grown, one of them just a little older than me. She told me this casually, like a list she had recited 1,000 times. But her fingers tightened around her cup as if she wished she could take the words back. I told her about my failed attempts at relationships, girls who thought I was too intense, too unsure of myself. I admitted I had never really known what I wanted, only what I didn't. She didn't laugh. She just nodded, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she understood that kind of emptiness. There was a silence between us, and I let it stretch too long before blurting. "You don't seem happy." Her head snapped up. "You don't know me well enough to say that." I looked down, ashamed, but she didn't stop there. Her voice softened, almost breaking. "Happiness is complicated. Sometimes it's not about what you have, but what you've stopped expecting." The words hung in the air. I wanted to reach across the table, to tell her she deserved more, but I knew how dangerous that would be. She was married. She was twice my age. She was everything I wasn't supposed to want. And yet, here I was, leaning in closer, memorizing the way the light caught her hair, the way her lips trembled when she wasn't careful. I told myself it was just curiosity. Just fascination. But I knew better. Claire shifted in her chair, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. It was such a small gesture, but it made my chest tighten. I caught myself staring too long, and she noticed. Her cheeks flushed, and she turned away. We spoke of safe things after that, the weather, books, music, but the words were only a cover. Beneath them was something heavier, something neither of us dared name. Every pause, every glance carried weight. When it was time to leave, we stood at the same moment. The space between us felt electric. I reached to move her chair aside, and my hand grazed hers. It was nothing, barely a touch, but she froze. Her eyes met mine, wide, vulnerable, searching. She didn't pull away. For that heartbeat, the cafe disappeared. There was only her hand against mine, the unspoken truth pressing between us. It should have ended at the cafe. A fleeting attraction, nothing more. I told myself that over and over, rehearsing the reasons why it couldn't go further. She was married, she had children, she had a life already written. I was still learning to write mine. But a week later, I found myself standing outside the same cafe again. I hadn't planned it, or maybe I had. I don't know. My stomach twisted when I saw her through the window, head bent over her book. I almost turned back. Almost. She noticed me instantly, as though her eyes had been waiting. Her lips parted, like she might scold me or send me away. But instead, she gave the smallest nod. Permission. I stepped inside. We talked about nothing at first. About how spring still hadn't warmed the city. About how she hated the new coffee blend. Safe words. Empty words. But every pause lingered, every glance stretched too long. And then, the air shifted. Her phone buzzed on the table again. Same name lighting up the screen, Mark. Her husband. She didn't touch it. Just stared at it until it went dark. "You should answer," I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, almost angry. "And say what? That I'm here wasting time with someone I shouldn't even know?" Her voice cracked on the last word. She looked away, ashamed. I swallowed hard. "You're not wasting my time." The silence after that was unbearable. My chest thudded with things I couldn't say, things I wanted to reach across the table and prove with touch instead of words. She looked like she wanted to flee. But she didn't. Instead, she leaned closer, whispering as if afraid of being overheard. "You don't understand what you're asking for." My throat went dry. "Then explain it to me." Her lips parted, hesitant, trembling, when suddenly the cafe door swung open. A man in his 30s stormed in, glancing around until his eyes landed on me. "Eli!" It was my roommate Jake. He grinned, oblivious to the tension in the air. "Didn't think I'd find you here." I stiffened, my face flushing. Claire instantly straightened, crossing her arms, hiding whatever had just flickered between us. Jake looked between us, curious. "Oh, sorry, am I interrupting?" "Yes," I wanted to say. "Terribly." Claire beat me to it. Not at all. We were just leaving. Her voice was too calm, too rehearsed. I shot her a glance, but she avoided my eyes. She stood quickly, gathering her things. Jake raised his brows at me, smirking, as though I'd just been caught in something I couldn't explain. We stepped outside together. The cold hit harder than usual. Claire's hands shook as she fumbled with her coat buttons. Why did you say that? I asked. Her jaw tightened. Because this is a mistake. Then why are you still here with me? That stopped her. She looked up, her eyes burning with something she didn't want to name. Because I can't seem to stop. The words hit me like a blow. I moved without thinking, closing the gap between us, my breath mingling with hers in the cold air. Our faces were inches apart, her gaze flicking between my eyes and my lips. I wanted to kiss her. God, I wanted it more than I had ever wanted anything. But just as I leaned in, she pulled back sharply. No. Not here. Her voice was desperate, not angry. Her body trembling, not rigid. She glanced around, as though the whole street might be watching. I stepped back, guilt and hunger tangling inside me. Then when? I whispered. She didn't answer. Her phone buzzed again in her pocket, dragging her back into the world she belonged to. She took a shaky breath, then whispered, "This has to end before it begins." And yet, she didn't walk away. We stood there, locked in a silence louder than any words. Cars passed, people hurried by, but all I saw was her, the flush in her cheeks, the battle in her eyes, the way her lips parted as if she wanted to say something else but couldn't. Finally, she turned, as if to leave. My chest sank, until she did something she hadn't done before. She reached out, just briefly, and brushed her fingers against mine. A touch so small it could have been an accident. But it wasn't. It was deliberate. It was everything. And then she was gone, vanishing into the crowd, leaving me standing there with my hands still tingling, my heart pounding with a question that had no answer. For days she avoided me. No texts. No chance encounters. Not even the cafe. I told myself it was for the best, that she had come to her senses, and I should too. But late at night, when the campus was silent, I kept replaying that fleeting brush of her fingers against mine. By the fourth day, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked to the library, the place where it had started, hoping, praying, she might be there. And she was. She sat by the window, her book unopened, staring out at the rain. I almost turned back. But she saw me. And in that instant, the walls she had been building cracked. Her shoulders sagged with something like relief, and without a word, she gestured for me to sit. The silence between us was unbearable. Finally, I blurted, "Why are you doing this? Why run if you don't want to?" Her jaw clenched. "Because this is wrong." "Then why don't you stop me?" My voice was sharper than I intended. "You had every chance, outside the cafe, that night. But you didn't." Her eyes filled with something raw, unguarded. "Do you think I don't want to? Do you think I don't lie awake every night?" She stopped herself, pressing her lips together until they trembled. The storm outside pounded harder against the glass. Inside, everything was still. "You're married," I whispered, as if saying it aloud might break the spell. Her hand tightened around the table's edge. "Do you think I don't remember that every second?" I leaned closer, my voice low, aching. "Then why do I feel like you're here with me, not him?" Her breath caught. For a moment neither of us moved. The library around us faded, the rain swallowing the world whole. And then she broke. "Because I am." The confession tore through me, equal parts ecstasy and devastation. My heart hammered as I searched her face, desperate for certainty. "Say it again." Her eyes locked on mine, wide and terrified. "I am here with you." We sat there, trembling on the edge of something neither of us could undo. My hand slid closer across the table, hovering near hers. She didn't move away. "You know if this happens," I said, voice unsteady, "there's no going back." Her lips parted, her breath shallow. For a heartbeat, she seemed ready to leap, into me, into this. But then her phone lit up on the table again. Mark. She flinched, staring at the glowing name like it was a weapon. Her hand hovered above it, shaking. Then she looked at me, her face torn open with conflict. I can't, she whispered. I reached across, my fingers brushing hers again, firmer this time. Yes, you can. Her eyes brimmed with tears. She didn't pull away. The rain roared louder. My pulse thundered. Every muscle in my body screamed to close the distance. And then, just as I leaned forward, ready to erase every barrier between us, the library door swung open. The library door banged shut, and for a moment I thought it was no one, just a random student escaping the rain. But then I saw her face go pale. A young woman stood frozen by the entrance, clutching a damp umbrella. She couldn't have been much older than me. And when her eyes locked on Claire, the resemblance hit me, the curve of her jaw, the same shade of hair. Mom? The girl said, her voice breaking. Claire shot to her feet, her chair scraping loudly across the floor. Anna, what are you doing here? The girl, her daughter, glanced between us, her gaze sharp, calculating. I should be asking you that. My stomach dropped. The air turned heavier than the storm outside. I opened my mouth, but no sound came. Claire moved quickly, forcing calm into her voice. I was just helping him with coursework. Nothing more. But Anna's eyes narrowed, flicking to our hands still too close on the table. Does Dad know? The silence that followed was worse than any shouted accusation. Claire's lips parted, but no answer came. And in that silence, everything was said. Anna turned on her heel, storming toward the door. Claire lunged forward, grabbing her arm. Please don't. Don't what? Anna snapped, her voice shaking. Don't tell Dad that you're sneaking around with someone my age? Do you even hear yourself? Her words hit like a blade. I wanted to speak, to defend her, to say it wasn't like that, but what was it really? What could I call this without lying to myself? Claire's shoulders collapsed under the weight of her daughter's stare. It's not what you think. Anna laughed bitterly. It's exactly what I think. And then she was gone, the door slamming so hard the glass rattled. The silence left behind was unbearable. Claire stood motionless, one hand still outstretched, as though she could pull her daughter back from the doorway. I rose slowly, unsure if I should go to her or stay away. Claire! She flinched at my voice. For the first time, she couldn't look at me. This is over, she whispered. No. I stepped closer, desperate, reckless. Don't say that. Tears brimmed in her eyes, but her expression hardened. You don't understand. It's not just about me anymore. It's about my family. My daughter just saw me, saw us. There's no undoing that. Her words carved into me, sharp and final. But beneath them, I heard something else, fear, yes, but also the echo of want she couldn't erase. I reached for her hand, but she pulled back before I could touch her. You need to forget this, she said. Forget me. And then she walked past me, her perfume trailing like the ghost of everything I was losing. I stood in the rain outside afterward, drenched and hollow, one thought pounding louder than the storm. I couldn't forget her. I didn't see her for a week. Not at the cafe, not at the library. I told myself it was over, but the lie burned every time I passed the place where we had sat, where her voice still echoed in the air. Then, late one evening, I found her. Or maybe she found me. The storm had cleared, and the streets glistened under the lamplight. I was heading home from class when she stepped out from the shadows near the corner bookstore. Her face looked worn, softer somehow, like the weight of holding everything in had finally broken her down. Claire! I breathed, my chest tightening. She didn't answer right away. She just studied me, her arms wrapped around herself. Then, quietly, Anna won't look at me. Not since that night. I swallowed hard, guilt twisting inside me. I'm sorry. Her laugh was brittle. You didn't do this alone. For a moment, we stood in the silence of the wet street, traffic humming distantly, the smell of rain still sharp. And then she whispered the words I hadn't let myself hope for. I don't want to keep lying. I stepped closer. Then don't. Her eyes shimmered, searching mine. You don't understand what that means. If I choose this, if I choose you, my marriage ends. My daughter hates me. Everything I've built. Her voice cracked. It all shatters. I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. My fingers laced with hers, trembling. And if you don't? You go back to pretending? To being half alive? Tears spilled over her cheeks. She looked so human then, so breakable, that for once I didn't feel like the younger one. I felt like the only one who saw her fully, who refused to let her disappear into the life that smothered her. Tell me the truth, I said, my voice rough. Do you want me? She closed her eyes, as if it hurt to admit it. Then she nodded, almost imperceptibly, but enough to rip the air from my lungs. Then it's simple, I whispered. Her eyes snapped open, fire and fear colliding. It's not simple. God, don't you see? Loving you means breaking everything else. Then let it break, I said. The words hung between us, reckless and final. For a second, I thought she would run. But instead she surged forward, pressing her forehead against mine, her breast shuddering. I'm so scared, she confessed, raw and trembling. So am I. My thumb brushed away a tear on her cheek. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. Her lips parted, her breath warm against mine, and for a heartbeat the world stilled, just us, the lamplight, the quiet ache of everything we couldn't take back. And then, she kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, messy, full of years of silence breaking open at once. When we finally pulled apart, her chest rose and fell like she'd run a marathon. She didn't promise me forever. I didn't ask. But as she held my face in her shaking hands, I knew the choice had been made. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the air damp and heavy with the scent of wet earth. I sat on the edge of her couch, head in my hands, wondering how many more pieces of myself I could leave behind before I had nothing left. Across from me, she moved quietly, folding a blanket, her movements deliberate, like someone afraid that if she rushed, everything might shatter. We had crossed lines we swore we wouldn't. We had confessed, touched, surrendered. And now the silence between us wasn't empty, it was charged, fragile, alive. She looked at me then, eyes raw, voice trembling. I can't undo what I did. I betrayed him. But with you, I felt alive again. Like I wasn't invisible. Like someone saw me. Her words cut deeper than any accusation could. Because I knew. I knew what it meant to ache for connection, to crave being wanted, not out of obligation, but out of genuine hunger for the soul behind the skin. I wanted to tell her we could run, that age and vows and judgment didn't matter, but the truth weighed heavier than any fantasy. Love wasn't only about desire. It was about the cost, and whether we were willing to pay it. I reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Maybe we broke something, I whispered, but maybe we also found something worth breaking for. Her breath hitched. She squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt, as if anchoring herself. In that moment, she wasn't someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's mistake. She was simply herself, the woman who had let me in, who had given me something real. We didn't promise forever. We didn't sketch out impossible futures. What we had was one fragile, unspoken truth: we couldn't forget each other now, no matter how much we tried. The clock ticked louder than it should have. She finally pulled away, tears brimming. You should go, she said, but her voice betrayed her heart. I stood, my chest heavy, but I leaned down anyway, brushing my lips against her hair. We'll carry this. Both of us. No matter where we end up. She nodded, eyes closing, as if sealing away everything we couldn't say out loud. When I stepped outside, the world looked unchanged, the same wet pavement, the same gray sky. But inside me, nothing was the same. I wasn't the boy who wandered into her life by accident. And she wasn't just the woman who made a mistake. We were something else now, two people who had touched something dangerous and beautiful, and survived it. Maybe love doesn't always end in tidy resolutions. Sometimes it just leaves you with a scar, a secret, a reminder that you were once willing to risk everything for a heartbeat of truth. And maybe that's enough. Ch2